Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and yesterday we had another one of the song premieres that are suddenly coming in thick and fast with the Eurovision season this year. It seems that we have 3 Super Saturdays and everyone else is just rapid fire, boom, 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 another song, another day, another song, and there's so many songs that, most recently, well, Croatia, but I mean that was today. Yesterday was the turn of Cyprus to show off their eagerly anticipated entry, and, well, it'll become obvious in just a moment why I'm not super keen on dwelling on where this song came from. I have no problem with Cyprus itself, it's just, well, allow me to explain. The performer is the one I like to call Cyprus Bey. I've literally never called him that before in my life apart from in my notes, but just Cyprus Bey. Hovig Demirjian, who is of part Armenian descent, Cypriot Armenian, so yeah. Hovig, and the song Gravity, which is completely in English, and music and lyrics by Thomas Gearson. If you're new to my channel, I kind of have a long-standing beef with him. It's technically nothing personal, I just don't like how he has no qualms about sending songs to more than one country in a single year. It's unfair, but I'm not going to dwell on it, just that's a little bit of background, so let's just move on with my first impressions of this song, and I'll try not to let my previous biases get in the way. Don't worry, I'm an unbiased reviewer, I just have human emotions sometimes. But yes, what are my first impressions? Well, whether it's because it's a Jason song or not, I call it Jason, it's just, that's how you pronounce the letter G in my language, just live with it, it's a reflex. Whether or not it is a Jason song, my first instinctive response on hearing this song is, oh, so people are gonna like it without even thinking about it. Alright. Yeah, it's kind of one of those pop songs. Popular just because it is. You know, it's shaped like itself. It's of its own colour, to quote Shakespeare. I was quoting Shakespeare there. Now, normally, when I say that about a Eurovision song, the connotation is that I'm about to rain unholy quantities of shade all over the song, and then say, oh, it lacks substance and blah, blah, blah. Well, no, let's give this one a chance, because I do pride my reviews on being fair to one extent or another, and as I said, I may be harbouring a slight personal beef with Thomas Geeson and his proliferations, but that doesn't mean that Hovig should have to suffer in my estimations for it as well. After all, I loved his national final song in 2015, and that's why I call him Cyprus Bey. I literally don't call him Cyprus Bey, but, and I promise I'll try to keep comparisons between his song from 2015 and this song to a minimum as well. So, yeah. Fair hearing, commence! So, those positive points that I like about this song then, what might they happen to be? Well, kind of the most prominent thing about this song is its absolutely pounding beat. Why am I being so camp about this? It's got a good beat. Which just reminds me of the music video for Cheap Thrills by Sia. It's got nothing to do with this song, it's just that it starts with an interview with a woman who says, I like it because it's got a good beat. Well, that's the story here. I'm very much aware that people have started crying plagiarism on this one because the beat sounds similar to that of Human by Rag and Bone Man, but, sorry to break it to you, fam, but that's kind of a fairly standard concept for a beat in the music industry. I know this might blow a mind or two by saying this, and I'm willing to sign off the medical whatevers for blowing some minds by saying this, but there doesn't have to be a plagiarism scandal every year. Wild, right? And next up in my notes, perhaps this is to be expected of a Geeson song, but who am I kidding? Of course it's to be expected of a song written by Thomas Gearson. The tune of the refrain, whilst frustratingly hypnotic to anyone not able to resist it, is actually surprisingly enjoyable and memorable. Its sudden high notes in particular do give it a rather pointed texture, is what I put in my notes, and I currently don't know how else to describe it. It's just they have sudden high notes, so it goes like whoop, and then back down again. That's kind of where my mind is going with that. I know, I think in weird shapes sometimes. It makes the song more memorable, though, than if the tune were flatter, but then again, I suppose that completely goes without saying, doesn't it? And on a similar note, while it is one of those, like, lyric-wise, another one of those, let me be your blank, we could be blank, we are the blank of our time, etc., at least in terms of narrative, the lyrics are, for what they're worth, fairly good, considering they do have that kind of framework to stick to or be restricted by, depending on how you view it. At the very least, they're competent to a native English ear, apart from that one bit where he sounds like he's saying, attach me separately, and what the fresh hell does that even mean? So, yeah, on balance, still a very Geeson song, but certainly not the worst or most generic he's ever produced, which is usually, that's my regular beef. Geeson songs are typically mass-produced pop that don't really reflect the artist that sings them, and are just popular because they sound exciting, and to his credit, This one isn't as bad as that. And no, I'm not just saying that because it's performed by Cyprus Bay. I don't call him Cyprus Bay, but Cyprus Bay though. Ta-da! Now, if you've seen my reviews before, especially if you saw my review of Cyprus last year, I think, you might get the impression that I'm really looking forward to talking about the negative points here, but like I said, I'm trying to be more neutral this year. I'm trying to pull it back. Occasionally scream at the camera if I feel particularly frustrated, but no, I'm trying to dial it back, trying to be calm and zen. So, negative points here, at least in my opinion. One thing that jumps out at me every single time I listen to the song is the weird breaky, pausey bit at about 1 minute 45. I think it's at the end of the second verse, just before the second refrain. I mean, it doesn't not work, but to me, at least, it feels like it messes with the flow of the song a little. And it might look a little bit strange on stage without the right choreography and staging, just the fact that, hey, I'm singing, and then chorus. I admit it's not quite as over the top as that, but still it's a little bit out of nowhere. But actually, while I'm on the subject of choreography and staging and all that, that is another point, the staging of this one. Knowing Gearson and his tendencies, it is probably going to have a fairly sizable budget, or at the very least the urge to look like it has a big budget, whether it does or not. And it will try to showcase this at every possible juncture. And then if it does go over the top, we'll just end up with another instance of the "you are the only wonder" wall, which comes across live as some combination of tacky and desperate, depending on the song. And those aren't my words, that's literally what the UK commentator said about Russia's song last year. That's literally, I'm just quoting other people. Don't hate me for it, but kind of true. If a staging is too overblown and the song doesn't stack up, then it doesn't bode well. And in this case, the song could stack up by itself, but if the staging is over the top, it will make the song look desperate in comparison. Comparison is a powerful thing, after all. Alternatively, he might have some holograms instead. That's kind of the flavour of the past couple of years, or year or two. They are cool in theory, of course, but trust me, they do nothing for a live audience actually in-house, because they can't see them. Now, I've mentioned before how Armenia's song last year, absolute banger of a track, brilliant, and the live staging was very impressive, unless you were there in Stockholm to see it, in which case it's just Iveta Bakuchan in a tight-fitting sort of flesh-bearing outfit just sort of going like, ooh, ooh, for 3 minutes, and it's not quite as engaging as all the fancy holograms, so that is a consideration. That's why I object to the formerly prohibited but now okay for some reason on-camera special effects that only appear on camera. Like, Italy had them last year. They've been really prevalent in Melody Festival in this year as well. So, I'm hoping it doesn't stray into that territory, because that will overblow it considerably. Now, stepping out of the hypothetical zone, except I would rather still stand over here because that's how this video is framed, let's talk about the refrain again. My praise of its tune and its melody does still stand, but that also happens to be its greatest weakness. For one, by the end of the song, it's so easy just to start to get sick of it, because it's that memorable that by the time you get to the end of the song, you're like, yep, I remember this from a minute ago or 2 minutes ago, you can stop now, but I feel like it repeats the chorus just a little bit too much, but I'm not sure what else they could do about that apart from slow the song down, which would just, well, it would kill it slightly. And, yeah, the song really does get dangerously close to allowing itself to wear thin by the end. Second point on this general bubble of subject, yeah, the refrain has a powerful, memorable melody, to the detriment of everything else. I'll put it this way. After a few listens, yeah, I've got the tune more or less committed to memory. It's fun, it's enjoyable, but, what's the lyrics again? I don't know how, but the song manages to overpower and upstage itself in the memorability department. Good job, song. You played yourself! So how does it stack up in the scores out of 10 department, then? Well, we'll follow traditions and start with my own personal, biased, subjective, whatever opinion. 8. Just gonna come out and say it. That might surprise some people, especially if you know my, well, history of beef with Thomas. That sounds like a book. The History of Beef with Thomas Jason. No, but it might surprise those people even more to know that I almost considered giving this a 9, actually. Putting my personal biases against Jason aside, and my biases in favour of Hovig for that matter as well, I enjoy this song as it stands, though the more the tune rattles around in my head, without the lyrics keeping up, might I add, the more irritating it starts to get. Yeah, it's absolutely enjoyable in the moment. It's fun, it's nice, I like it, but the refrain just does not let go once the song ends, even after the lyrics are long gone. Aside from that, it does strike me as an average pop song that has all the pomp and circumstance of a song that brings something fresh to the contest, without actually bringing anything particularly new or in itself especially exciting. But it's an enjoyable 3 minutes with a fun enough beat, so props there. I will certainly not be leaving the room when this is on. And as for the technical score out of 10, 7. I can live with a 7. Even without the occasional comment pointing this out in the video description, I am painfully aware that the technical score and my personal scores for these songs tend to correlate fairly closely, but in my defense, the fact tends to remain. Songs that are good technically tend to be more enjoyable by their very nature, and technically bad songs tend to sort of flop in my own personal estimation as well. That's just the nature of songwriting. And if the two scores diverge, then that's just a sign of either a well-made song that bores me, or a crap song that's my own personal guilty pleasure. We might see more of that later this year. We don't know, we're like halfway through at the moment. Getting back on track, this song, meanwhile, is pleasantly middle of the road as far as do I like it, do I not like it, is it technically good, technically bad? It's sort of down the middle in both cases, like on the good side of down the middle though. Plus points for its beat, even if it is a touch common, and for its memorable tune, and negative points for its tendency to outstay its welcome by the end of itself, and for its lyrics allowing themselves to just vanish from memory so easily, even though the melody is one that was written to stay in your mind for a while. There's kind of an imbalance of priorities there. Maybe that's just me. Now, compared to Cyprus's last effort, sorry, I get the two mixed up sometimes, I'm not even going to say it. You know exactly what I'm thinking, and I'm not even going to... I am thinking it, but I'm not going to say it. Despite that, one could argue that it would be a little easier than the thing that I'm not saying, simply because both this year and last year, Cyprus sent an artist that finished in the final of their national final in 2015, now armed with a Jason song. And Jason songs are pretty much of a muchness, so how hard can it be to compare them? That said, I am going to lean towards Hovig's song, because it's much more prone to pleasing the masses. I know, shock horror, a Jason song being a crowd pleaser. But my thinking here is, Alter Ego, as far as I'm concerned, wasn't so much a -1 song as it was Jason's interpretation of what a -1 song would sound like if it had a disco beat and his huge fucking handprint on it. It was enjoyable enough, I'm not going to deny that. Europe Scala 8 certainly really enjoyed it. She bought a Cypriot flag while we were in Stockholm and everything, and she still has it now, actually. But some fans, or I should say fans, were put off by the presence of the gasp! A guitar? Not in my Eurovision! I wanted camp disco! With Gravity, they've got no such excuse. If they want to dislike this song, they're gonna need to think a little harder and, oh, wait, no, this is the Eurovision fandom we're talking about, isn't it? The ones who get a kick out of complaining about songs tend not to like thinking, if they, even can. Never mind. But Gravity is overall the more chartable. Now, I feel like I'm about to be beset by a wave of comments disagreeing, because I have seen some people commenting on the official music video on the Eurovision channel, linked to that in the description, by the way, saying, oh, this song's boring, and Jason's lost his touch, and maybe the subtext being, oh, he's Ralph Siegel of the 21st century. I don't know, but I can live with that either way, to be honest, but, I think Hovig's is more chartable, and that's kind of the basis of my opinion here. That's kind of it, really. Now, will we be seeing this again in the final? Yeah, we will. What? How could I be so sure when even the safest of qualifiers so far has received little more than an asterisk saying, yeah, they will, but also maybe they won't? Well, because it's a Jason song. The only not qualifying he does is in national finals, and even then. Jaded cynicism aside, though, it bears all the hallmarks of a Jason brand guaranteed qualifier. Catchy beat, hypnotic melody, arbitrary popularity before people have even heard the song, guaranteed mesmerizing staging that goes a little bit over the top. Okay, I'm slipping back into cynicism again, I recognize. But yeah, in all seriousness, it's catchy, it's memorable, it can fill the stage, and it's bound to be a spectacle just to watch. If this doesn't get through to the final, I don't know, I'll do something. I'll kind of like the shoe dare from last year. I'll think of something. But for now, I will say, good luck, Cyprus. I'm not going to slip into the if you can't beat them, join the mentality, but your song's alright. I wish you a sincere bout of good luck, because you could do a lot worse.